have the courage to do that? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, I can barely believe this Conservative hypocrisy. They voted against all of our measures to do something to freeze the handgun market throughout the country. They stand up in this House and they ask about gun violence. It makes no sense. We know that we need to take action, and we have taken concrete action. 1 year ago, we did something about the handgun market, and it's starting to bear fruit. We want all parties in this House to help ensure that our communities remain safe.
Honorable député de Saint-Laurent.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Laurent. Mr. Speaker, this month, Medicare legislation came into force in Canada. 9 million women will be able to take informed decisions about contraceptives without having to worry about paying. Can the Minister of Tourism tell the House about how the Medicare program will guarantee that women have the reproductive autonomy that they deserve? The Honourable Minister of Tourism. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague for her activism in the area of women's rights. This Medicare legislation is historic. This pharmacare legislation, rather, is historic and will allow people like my own daughter to be able to access contraceptive choices without having to worry about how to pay for it. Unlike the Conservatives, who want to take that choice away from women, we will always support women's autonomy when it comes to making choices about their bodies and their future.
The Honourable Member from Calgary-Midnapore.
Mr. Speaker, after 9 years of this Liberal NDP government, taxes are up, costs are up, corruption is up, and time is up. The Auditor General is finally investigating GC Strategies, who received $100 million from this government and $20 million for the Arrive scam scandal. But this is only one incident of Liberal insider corruption. The Green Slush Fund, McKinsey, Global Affairs Canada, Environment Canada. So just how much taxpayer money did the Prime Minister give fraudsters and scamsters?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, while Conservatives play with theatrics, we're actually committed to ensuring that our procurement system is something that Canadians have trust in. This is anybody who has operated without following the rules and the laws should be held accountable. We've said that from the beginning. This is precisely why CBSA has already initiated a number of measures and recommendations and are working with the Auditor General to ensure that there is trust in our procurement system, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member from Carleton Trail, Eagle Creek.
After 9 years of NTB Liberals, taxes are up, corruption is up, crime is up, time is up. Yesterday, the Auditor General announced that she will be investigating the $100 million in contracts awarded to GC Strategies by this Liberal government, a two-person IT company that did no IT work, but was paid $20 million for the Arrive scam app. It's been months since the Liberal minister promised to recover the money paid to GC Strategies. When will the Prime Minister get taxpayers their money back?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Security.
Mr. Speaker, as I said before, we welcome the opportunity to get to the bottom of the situation to ensure that our procurement system has trust in it. But let's also be clear with Canadians in the fact that it was the Conservative Party who first initiated contracts with this company. And so I really hope the Auditor General looks back and ensures that any wrongdoing is also looked at the beginning of contracts with this company, Mr. Speaker, because all Canadians deserve to know that there is trust in our procurement system. Oh, they got quiet all of a sudden.
It's not true.
The Honourable Député de Mégantic-L'Érable.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Mr. Speaker, 2 million Canadians are lining up at food banks every month, but meanwhile, Liberal buddies are lining up to fill their own pockets. Do you remember GC Strategies? 2 guys in a basement who received a $20 million contract to develop ArriveCan, even though they had no IT expertise. And we've just heard that the AG has announced that she will be investigating the $100 million in contracts that GC Strategies got. GC Strategies took advantage of this liberal largesse. Meanwhile, who paid the bill? Taxpayers. How many liberal buddies have raked in the profits while emptying the pockets of Canadian families? The Honourable Minister of Public Services and Procurement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As my colleague already very clearly stated, there is a question that we've never gotten the answer to. My colleague just talked about the fact that some children don't have enough to eat and that kids need to be able to have eaten a good breakfast before they go to school. So how is it that the Conservative Party doesn't want to help children have enough to eat when they go to school? After all, how can the Conservatives justify this attitude with their own constituents?
Le député de Mégantic-l'Érable a eu sa chance à poser une question.
The member has already had a chance to ask a question, so I would encourage him to continue this discussion outside the House.
Député de Châteauguay-Lacolle.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Access to contraceptives like the birth control pill improves equality and provides women with the ability to decide if or when they will start a family. We know that cost is the single most significant barrier for women and gender-diverse Canadians in accessing these medicines. Can the Minister of Women and Gender Equality and Youth please share with this House how the Pharmacare Act will impact Canadians?
The Honourable Minister for Women, Gender Equality and Youth.
Mr. Speaker, access to contraception shouldn't be a luxury, but a fundamental right. And the Pharmacare Act provides women and gender-diverse people with the freedom to make their own choices about their bodies and not worry about the cost, Mr. Speaker. But Conservatives don't want Canadians to have free access to contraceptives or reproductive freedom. How do we know this? Because members opposite continue to introduce anti-choice petitions and bills. Make no mistake, Mr. Speaker, Conservatives will cut free contraceptives. On this side of the House, we will always stand for choice.
The Honourable Member from Vancouver East.
The Conservatives created the low-wage temporary foreign worker stream, and the Liberals feel it to help rich CEOs. They restricted workers to one employer with closed work permits, subjected migrant workers to abuse, wage theft, and exploitation, and suppressed wages for Canadians. Chain CEOs are ramping up the exploitation and abuse. Workers like Rowell Palin said their boss, Canadian Tire, paid them less wages and threatened them if they told anyone. Will the Liberals stop caving to CEOs and end the abuse with open work permits?
The Honourable Minister for Workforce Development.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for her question, and as I've been very clear in this chamber and at committee, there's a new sheriff in town, and businesses need to be very careful and need to make sure that they are respecting workers from coast to coast to coast. Stay tuned later today, Mr. Speaker, for more changes to the temporary foreign worker program. We are serious about making sure that that program is a program of last resort. Jobs belong in the hands of Canadians, of youth, of newcomers, and of people who already live here. Mr. Speaker, we're going to make sure the temporary foreign program is cleaned up. That's what we promise the Canadians. It's exactly what we're going to do.
The Honourable Member from Churchill-Kiwatinuk-Aski.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Bloc and Liberals joined together in committee to cover up the soccer drone scandal that took place during the Olympics. The Liberals refused to investigate how this happened and are happy to ignore the problem, which is apparently good enough for the Bloc, who shamefully joined them. Canadians deserve better. They deserve to know that this won't happen again. Why won't the government support accountability? Why won't they listen to the players, the soccer community, and fans who want to ensure that the focus is on the tremendous effort on the pitch and not on the actions of a few people and institutions that don't get it, that soccer, like any sport, should be about fair play and integrity?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the committee, of course, is free to determine its own business, but I can assure this House that upon learning of this scandal, this government took immediate action and suspended the funding to Soccer Canada for the coaches that were implicated. There's also been direct action taken by FIFA, by the Canadian Olympic Committee, by Soccer Canada itself, and I can assure you we're watching the situation closely.